Hi, welcome back to my channel, Baking Book and History Nook. My name is Jenny, and today we're going to be making another vintage recipe, this time from this cookbook, Quick Dishes for the Woman in a Hurry. This book is actually part of a set of cookbooks that was released by the Culinary Arts Institute of Chicago, and the copyright of this cookbook is 1955. So far, all of the recipes I've made for this channel have either been sweets or snacks. And it has been requested by certain members of my family that perhaps I could make something more savory that could be eaten for dinner. This recipe actually comes from the meat, fish, poultry, and main dishes section of the cookbook, and it is called dried beef in toast cups. Everything is ready to go. Let's get cooking. Dried beef in toast cups requires a few different steps and a few different recipes to make it. The Culinary Arts Institute recipes, the way they set things up in their cookbooks can be a little bit challenging. You really do need to read before you do anything, and you need to check if there are other recipes that they're asking you to do within the current recipe. So for example, this recipe has 3 different recipes that you do before you even get to the end of the recipe. You have to do the eggs, you have to make the toast cups, and you need to make the white sauce. The first step is to hard cook 4 eggs. And they do have a recipe for how to do that in the cookbook. I did not use their recipe. I already know how to hard cook eggs, so I just did it my way. So that's already done. The second step is to make 6 toast cups. That we are going to do together. It's time to make the toast cups. I am preheating the oven to 350 degrees, and I have taken the crust off of 6 slices of bread already. What I'm going to do now is to take my pastry brush and lightly brush the sides of each slice of bread with melted butter. So I've got, you can see I have a bowl of melted butter here. One side, second side. I'm trying to do it as lightly as possible, but to also be thorough about it. You need to have enough butter on things. The first slice, I have lightly brushed both sides with butter, and I'm going to gently press that down into the muffin tin here to make a cup, which it's not working, it's actually breaking. Okay, that just broke a lot. I'm just kind of trying to fix it here a little bit, see if this will work. Maybe I chose bread that's too thick. Okay, let's try another slice and see if this works. Here. Nope, it doesn't want to work. I think I chose slices that are too thick. This is what the toast cups look like before they've been baked. I do have to tell you that I did have a problem. I had problems when I was making these. This was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I used bakery bread because I tend to buy my bread from the bakery and then I put it in the freezer right away. So this was thawed slices of bakery bread. They were room temperature, but they did not want to press into these cups, even when they've been buttered with the warm melted butter. they just started to crumble and break apart. So it ended up actually heating each slice individually once it was buttered in the microwave. I heated it on low power, like defrost, and then I was able to press it into the cups without it breaking. I'm hoping that when they bake, they turn out okay. It did work though to heat up the slices of bread. That was actually really helpful. I think otherwise there was no way this would have worked. Now I'm gonna bake the toast cups at 350 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes or until lightly browned. So I'm gonna pop these in the oven and get them baking. The toast cups just came out of the oven and they are lightly browned. They smell good, they look good. I'm glad that they turned out. The third step is to prepare 2 cups of medium white sauce. This is actually doubling the white sauce recipe, so I'm going to make the white sauce now. Let's get started on that. We are all set to make the white sauce. Remember that we are doubling this recipe, so the recipe that I showed earlier does need to be doubled in order to make the dried beef in toast cups recipe. The first step is to melt 4 tablespoons of butter over low heat. So that's what I'm doing right now here in this saucepan. The butter is all melted. So now the next step is to add 4 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to stir that up. I'm also going to add a half teaspoon of salt with just a few grains of pepper in it. So that's what this is. And it also calls for a half teaspoon of MSG or monosodium glutamate. I am not going to use MSG. That's just not something that I use in my kitchen. So instead of MSG, I'm going to be using a 1/4 teaspoon of homemade seasoned salt. I turned the light on in the kitchen. I think it'll be easier to see that way. The recipe says that once you've mixed in the flour and the seasonings, you're supposed to heat it until it's bubbling. So it says heat until mixture bubbles. We are not quite bubbling yet. It is very smooth. You can see it's going to be a nice sauce. It smells good. I can smell the seasoned salt a little bit. So while we're waiting for this to bubble, I'm just going to say that MSG or monosodium glutamate is something that was actually very popular. It became very popular in the 1950s. The cookbooks that I had from the Culinary Arts Institute, many of them from the 50s do use MSG in quite a few of the recipes. Whenever I come across that, I always find something else to substitute it with. And I did look up what you can substitute MSG with, and it's usually just herbs and spices and things like that. So I just decided to use some homemade seasoned salt instead, because that's something I have on hand, and it sounded like that would taste really good with this recipe. The mixture is bubbling now, and I don't want it to burn, so I'm going to turn off the heat. Okay, heat is off. The next step says remove from heat, which I did, and then it says to gradually stir in 1 cup of milk, which we're going to be using 2 cups of milk because the recipe is doubled. So I'm going to add a little bit of the milk. I'm going to stir. I have made sauce recipes before, and I've never done it like this where you turn the heat off while you gradually add in the milk. So I'm actually just going to turn the heat back on and just put it nice and low and then add some more milk, because we are going to have to cook this. And I know that they want to let things heat up properly. Okay, now I'm adding some more milk, and I'm going to keep stirring, and it is on low heat. I'm just going to keep adding the milk until all of the 2 cups is in here. All the milk is added to the sauce now. The last step says cook rapidly, stirring constantly until sauce thickens, and then you're supposed to cook 1 to 2 minutes after the sauce has thickened. I've turned the heat up to medium high, and I'm just going to continue stirring until the sauce thickens. You can see the sauce is beginning to thicken. It's actually beginning to boil, so I'm going to turn it down just a little because it doesn't say anything about the sauce needing to simmer. It just says it needs to thicken. The sauce is really starting to stick to the sides of the pan. I think that's thick enough. I'm going to turn off the heat. Okay, the heat's off, and it says for the recipe that we are supposed to keep the sauce hot. So I'm just gonna leave it on the burner with the heat off, and I'm gonna put a cover on it. Okay, put a cover on it just to keep it hot while we finish the rest of the steps of the recipe. We'll come back to the sauce at the end. I already said that I hard cooked 4 eggs, and I have peeled them just like the recipe says, and I cut them the long way, just like you do when you're gonna make deviled eggs. And then I tipped the yolks into a bowl, and I chopped up all the whites. The whites are in a bowl in the fridge. We're gonna use them later, but for now, we are supposed to force the egg yolks through a sieve or ricer and then set them aside for a garnish. So I have all of these egg yolks here, and I'm gonna put them through this little sieve or strainer. I have never done anything like this, just like I had never made anything like toast cups before. So let's see if this works. Oh my goodness. I think it's just getting stuck in the strainer. I'm not sure this is gonna work. You can see it coming out the bottom a little bit, but it's just kind of, maybe I need a spoon. Okay, I'm gonna go get a spoon. I will be right back. I have a spoon. Here we go. Let's try this again. Maybe this is more how you do it. Apparently they want the egg yolks to be very fine pieces. Look, it's coming out the bottom, but it's taking a while. This is a very different recipe. I thought that this was gonna be way different than what it is. I actually thought it'd be a lot easier than what it is. I guess you shouldn't judge 1950s cooking, huh? Those housewives, they worked hard apparently. I mean, I know they worked hard. My own mother was a housewife and she worked very hard, but the 1950s ones, they had less conveniences and they had to do things like push egg yolks through sieves. My grandma was a 1950s housewife. She got married, I think in 1951, I think is when she got married. I wonder if she ever did this. I don't know if she would have had the patience to do something like this. She made deviled eggs every year for Thanksgiving and probably for Easter, but I don't know if she ever pressed an egg yolk through wire mesh like this. It's working, it just takes a little while. I'm done pushing the egg yolks through the fine wire mesh of the sieve, and it took quite a while, and it felt very, I'm gonna use the word putsy or finicky to be doing that type of thing for a dish that's supposed to be quick. This is coming from the Quick Dishes cookbook. Well, so far we have taking care of the egg yolks, so those are all ready to go. I'm going to set those aside. Actually, I'm going to put them back in the fridge so that they're ready when we need to garnish. And as I showed you before, the toast cups are all finished. The white sauce is done. It's still on the stove. We're going to move on to the last part of the recipe, which is going to be putting everything into the white sauce and cooking that. The white sauce has just been sitting on the burner covered. Oh, it looks like it's congealed a little bit. You can kind of see. That's all right. We're going to cook it up anyway. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do with this recipe is into the white sauce, I'm going to put 3 1/4 ounces of a can of sliced mushrooms, which according to the recipe should be about 1/3 cup drained, which that's what that was. And then we're going to put our chopped egg whites into the sauce as well. Here you can see the bowl of whites. Putting them in there. All right. Along with about 1 cup, or they said 2 1/2 ounces of shredded dried beef. So I bought Buddig dried beef lunch meat and I just cut it up myself. And then it came, I actually weighed it. It's a little less than 1 cup, but it is the 2 1/2 ounces. I went by weight instead of the measurement. I think it would have been too much if I had done otherwise. And the last ingredient is 1/4 cup of freshly chopped parsley. Putting that in. I just turned the heat back on and I'm going to stir this up thoroughly, everything that's in here. And it says to cook the mixture a few minutes to heat thoroughly, stirring occasionally. So I'm going to mix this all up and then I will let it heat thoroughly. Oh yeah, the sauce was congealed, but it's actually, this is mixing together really nicely. I think that the sauce was a pretty good consistency. I'd hoped it wasn't too thick, but I don't think it was. I think it's going to be really good. This actually looks like it could be pretty yummy. And it's nice color. Like you can see with the beef and the mushrooms and then the parsley in there. Colorful and pretty. I'm ready to try the dried beef in toast cups. Actually just put together one for right now. And I put it in this cute little dish. This little Carnival glass dish that belonged to my grandma. And I said before, my grandma was a housewife in the 1950s. So she might have done something like this. I've garnished the sauce with the egg yolk that has been pushed through the sieve. Actually, I think it looked more appetizing before I did that. I know garnish is usually supposed to be done lightly, but there is so much egg yolk in the bowl that I put on enough because I believe that's how it's supposed to be done. You want to use up the egg yolk. But it was much prettier before. So we'll see. Let's see how it tastes though now. I have never tried anything like this before. I'm very interested, excited to see how it tastes. I'm going to try to get a little bit of everything. So some beef, mushroom, egg, parsley, and then of course the egg yolk. I got a good bite there. The filling is pretty good. It probably could use some more salt and pepper. I can taste the seasoned salt that I put in there, and that's good. The sauce though, I mean, it's just milk and flour and butter and then a little bit of seasoning. It's not really that exciting. It is pretty good. I'm gonna try the toast cup now too. So I'll just take a bite. I think these are gonna be pretty messy, but I'm gonna do my best here. The toast cup was good. It's still warm and it was a little bit soft because it was warm, but it's still crispy and buttery, so that's really good. With the sauce, it's pretty good too, with, well, the filling, let's call it filling. The filling though, it really doesn't have that much flavor. It just tastes like a basic white sauce with a little bit of beef and egg thrown in. It's not really, I could taste the mushroom, and it's canned mushroom, so it's just okay. Okay, I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. I feel like it needs more flavor. It's kind of bland. It's a hot, hearty meal, but it's just kind of bland. And you know what? In terms of all the work that I had to do to make this, I'm kind of wondering what it was doing in the Quick Dishes cookbook, because it really wasn't that quick. At the beginning of the cookbook, there's a little introduction about quick dishes and why this is considered a quick dishes cookbook. I'm just gonna read from that little intro just a little bit. It says, "This cookbook has been written for the working woman, busy with career and apartment, the homemaker whose day is filled with community, club, and family activities, the hostess whose guests sometimes arrive without notice. Here are 332 recipes, any of which can be prepared in 30 minutes or less. The timing indicated is merely a guide since everyone works at a different speed." Well, I can tell you one thing. I guess I'm very slow because this recipe with all the different steps took me quite a while. It was not quick. It really wasn't. It wasn't quick. I don't feel like this is for the woman in a hurry. I feel like this is for if you want to do something kind of putsy. That's what I feel this recipe really is. You know, my version of a quick dishes recipe would be a casserole where you can throw it all together and just pop it in the oven. Just making all of the different things, this recipe probably took me an hour and a half, maybe even closer to 2 hours with all the different steps. So 3 out of 5 stars for this one, and I probably won't make it again. It was too bland and way too many steps for me to consider this quick. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. First, I'm going to take a bite of just everything that's in the sauciness. Oh, you know what? I'm supposed to garnish this with egg yolk. I almost forgot. I'll go get some egg yolk. It is a hot, hearty meal. Whoop, I got egg yolk falling down on the counter here.